So we're officially living in the 20s now. The 2010s have come to pass, and it is now January 1st, 2020 at about 2:34 a.m. So I decided let's talk about my 10 favorite films of the 2010s. I don't necessarily like declaring one film as more artistically valid or superior compared to another film, but I thought, you know what, top 10 lists are fun, so we're gonna do it. And just know this is a constantly shifting thing as to which films I enjoy experiencing more. Like, there are certain films here, like, take Silence, for example. I think Silence had more of an impact on me than some films on this list, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again because I'm not that much of a masochist to put myself through that emotional roller coaster. So this is less of the most impactful films for me of the 2010s and more of the films that at the start of 2020 I'm considering my favorites. Also note, I could spend a long, long time making sure I've seen every film in the 2010s that I'm even remotely interested in. Like, I still haven't seen First Reformed. I still haven't seen The Boy and the Beast. I still haven't seen Don John. Just so many films. But, I've seen what I've seen. Now we're in the 20s. So at this moment in time, this is my 10 favorites. And, before we get started, I don't really like talking about this because I don't think it'll be relevant down the road, but for the immediate time being, in regards to the FTC and COPPA laws, this video is not intended for children. If you are a child, please do not watch. This video talks about PG-13 and R-rated films, and there will certainly be some R-rated language coming out of this space in the next couple minutes. So, FTC, please don't come at me. Alright. So, let's get straight into it. Number 10 on my favorite films list came out in 2011, I believe. It must have been. I was in either 7th or 8th grade, I'm not sure. It's Warrior. I love this film so much. I'm a pretty big MMA fan, I'd say. Martial arts have always been something that interested me, and Warrior was the first time I saw an MMA film, period, I'm pretty sure, unless you count Bloodsport or something along those lines. But MMA as we know it, Warrior was the first one that I've seen, and it's still my favorite MMA film that I've come across. And I'm gonna try to keep these relatively spoiler-free. If I let something slip, I apologize. So if I talk about a film and you don't want to know anything about it, just skip ahead. So anyway, Warrior. That'll pull at the heartstrings a little bit. I went into it thinking, it'd have some really good fight scenes and, maybe a compelling story, hopefully. And coming out of this, I still can't hear that ending song without just having my eyes sweat a little bit. Oh, man. Like, I can hear the climactic third act song with the dialogue, just thinking about it in my head, and it gets me all, all friggin' emotional just thinking about it. Um, don't get me wrong, it did deliver on the fight scene aspect, but fuck me if it didn't make me tear up a little bit in the theater. It didn't make me cry, but it got my face a little sweaty in the eye region. Um, yeah, why don't we see more MMA films? Like, we're in the 2020s now. MMA is pretty big. Let's see some films, people. Let's get it done. So, coming in at number 9 is The Rider. Now, you've probably never heard of this film. That's okay. I hadn't heard of the film either until I came across the wonderful app known as Stardust, and someone on it talked about this film, and I am so glad that I saw it. It is a really touching film. It's a really intriguing film. It's set in some rural place. I can't remember. I should have thought of that before I started that sentence, but hi, if you're new here, a lot of what I do is just turn on the laptop camera, talk into it, and put it out there with no edits or anything, just one take wonder coming at you, and that's pretty much what I'm doing here at the moment. Anyway, The Rider. So, I am by no means a country boy at all. I live in a rural area, and I always have lived in a rural area, but I've never really connected to the country subculture. This film is very much rooted in that sort of country lifestyle, and I still connect to it so fucking hard. Oh. I gotta, rein myself in when I talk about this film, because there's something in it, man. I don't know what it is, but if you've ever had a passion for anything and you watch The Rider, you're gonna feel really inspired, but in a kind of bittersweet way. There's a more well-known film out there that this film feels a lot like to me, and I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, I'm just gonna drop that. Not gonna spoil anything for you here. But essentially, if you're looking for something that's really kind of bittersweet, lean in towards the bitter side, but it still leaves you sort of inspired at times, and just very contemplative. Like, you're gonna feel like your entire thought process is just completely disregarding the world around you, and it's just all inward, and you're thinking about yourself and what you're doing and what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. At least that was my experience with The Rider. Incredible film. I believe that came out in 2017. 2017 was a pretty good year for film. So, let's get into number 8. Let me just make sure I have this right so I don't fuck it up. Okay, yeah. So, my 8th favorite film, also pretty underrated, more well-known. It actually got put out in theaters near me, unlike The Rider. um, is Bad Times at the El Royale. So, I was pretty damn hyped for this film. Like, the trailer came out and it just grabbed me. I loved all the shots in the trailer. I was in it, I was vibing on it, and I needed to see that film as soon as it came out. And it's my favorite film of 2018, I believe. Let me just make sure I can say that without contradicting myself later. Yeah, okay. So I guess spoilers for the rest of the list. Bad Times at the El Royale is the only 2018 pick in here. It's my favorite film from 2018. This film is... It's one of those films where it sort of feels like it's meant directly for me. Little throat action going on. Like, just thematically, how it's essentially an analysis of what makes someone a good person, what makes someone a bad person, and it's told in one of my favorite, what would you call it? I don't know if I'd call it a trope, but just one of my favorite story structures. Like, there's no hero's journey in this. There's no grand adventure. There's really... I mean, I suppose there is a protagonist, but it's one of those films where it's a group of people in a confined area, and they just sort of figure each other out. They interact with each other. Stuff happens. You feel some feels. At least I did. I feel like I enjoy this film more than most folk, but I don't know what to tell you. I think it's incredible. I love it. I will say the climax didn't quite climax me as much as I wish it would have. The climax wasn't as emotionally powerful as I was hoping it would be. I don't know if that made it better. I didn't feel as much feels as I should have felt, but the overall film is still incredible. Like, there are so many frames from this that would make incredible posters. It's a very well shot, good looking film. And I just don't think this got enough credit. So, Bad Times at the El Royale. You might have heard of it. I doubt you've seen it just because of, I haven't seen it really have a presence on the internet after it came out. But please watch it. It's a really good time. I told myself I wasn't going to do that. Alright. That looks in order. Okay. By the way, tell me that isn't one of the best sticker phone background things. It's about... We're getting on 3 a.m. here. You can't expect all my words to make sense at this point. Tell me that doesn't look pretty damn cool. My best friend gave me that. And I love me some anime, so that was pretty cool. I just noticed it popped into the shot, so I thought I'd mention it, so thank you, sir. Anyway, number 7, we have a somewhat well-known, from what I understand, this film was pretty hyped before it came out, and a lot of people, I guess, didn't care for it. I don't know why, because this film is fan-fucking-tastic. Drive. Drive is cinema. It is so damn good. I mean, the opening sequence, that's just pure suspense. Everything about this film looks really good. Everything about this film sounds really good. I still listen to that Real Hero song. I have it on my phone. And if it, like if I have my phone on randomly for music, when I'm driving, I can, sometimes it'll be just this absolute banger of a song. I didn't learn banger until like a couple months ago, so we may be outside of the 2010s now, but I'm still using the terminology that I'm like to the party on, so anyway, I could be listening to a banger that fucking slaps, and then that Real Hero song from Drive will come on, and immediately I'm just like this melodramatic, pretentious film nerd staring blankly out the windshield as I drive. I mean, really, like, all the soundtrack, it just immediately puts you there. But any shot puts you there too. This film is a very well-crafted vision. Like, Nicholas Winding Refn knocked it out of the park in this one. Just, you watch it from beginning to end and it's a masterpiece, but you can turn it on TV and it'll suck you in just like that. You are in it right off, and you are in it for the rest of the runtime. Because this film, I don't know, it captivates me. It pulls me in. Drive, man. It's another one of those films similar thematically to Bad Times at the El Royale, talking about what makes someone a good person and what makes someone a bad person. This film, it's a little more nuanced in how it goes about this. It's a little more subtle than Bad Times at the El Royale, but it just looks so damn good. Even when it looks dark and gritty, it still looks oddly beautiful. And I think that's sort of part of what they were getting at. Drive. Alright, we're getting close to 3 a.m. and I'm still on fucking 7 here, so I can gush about Drive all day, but let's move on here. Alright. Number 6, another underappreciated gem. Pretty sure this one comes to us from the fine folk at A24. Might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first A24 film I ever saw. Those sons of bitches will put out damn fine films. Laptop? If you could not, that'd be great. So I saw Ex Machina at the perfect time. I missed it in theaters, but I rented it on DVD, and when I saw this film, I was in my senior year of high school, and I was working on the psychology class, and like shortly before watching the film, a couple days before I'd say, we got talking about all this really trippy shit, like the multiverse and free will, and what is the self, if it's like the brain recognizing itself and so the brain is the self, or if the knowledge of excuse yourself. It's 3 a.m. I can explain better at some point. But we were talking about like what the self is, and I was in it. I was all about that shit. I was just like, bring on the existentialism. And then I watched Ex Machina. This film will make you feel real uneasy. Like, I mean, it's worth noting AI is one of my biggest fears for the future. No offense, AI watching this later. So I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat as far as that goes, but just the way it makes you feel, you know. Essentially, I feel like this film requires a little bit of explanation because it's not very well known. So if you're not looking for any details on Ex Machina at all, just skip ahead a little bit. But basically, a person goes to this very reclusive tech wizard who's the head of this huge, I believe he's the head of a search engine company that totally isn't Google. And he's built this artificially intelligent person. You know, it's not a robot, it's a fucking person. And this person who goes to visit is used to test the AI to see if, you know, it's smart enough and emotional enough to be considered a person. Holy shit. This film will make you think. It's beautifully well shot, too. Just absolutely stunning visuals going on that really kind of enhance your emotions. And Ex Machina. It'll make you think, and that ain't bad. Alright. Oh, man. So I gave him a shout out before for the sticker. Aforementioned Biffle, if you are watching this video, I'm sorry. But my number 5 pick is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I cannot get enough of Scott Pilgrim. There's just something about it. I love it. I love the graphic novel series. I'm on the last book. I'm about maybe a little over halfway through it. Let's see. I'd say, or well, I was probably 13 when I saw this film for the first time. I wasn't quite, you know, ready to connect with it as much then. Because, I mean, the film's rated PG-13, but let's be real, it's made for 20-somethings. Now that I am a 20-something, you know, I'm 22 years old, I think Scott's 23 or 24, I'm not sure. Anyway, like, now that I am a 20-something who is no longer in school and getting out of my first job and trying to figure out what I want to be doing in the world, Scott Pilgrim is basically, I don't know, it's sort of the banner that I can hold up above my head and be like, hey, this is where I'm at in life. Minus the fighting 7 evil X's thing. So, essentially, For those of you looking for the analysis on Scott Pilgrim versus the World, it's about this dude named Scott, right? He finds this lady named Ramona, and this Ramona has 7 evil exes, and Scott has to beat the shit out of all of them in order to date Ramona. That is the plot, and it is masterful. I'm not a huge fan of Edgar Wright. That makes it sound negative. I think he's a great director. A lot of his films just don't really connect with me as much. But Scott Pilgrim captures the feeling of floating through your 20s and being nostalgic about your childhood and not really being sure of what the future holds and just sort of hanging out in this weird like limbo of life perfectly. And if you're out of high school and you haven't reached like your late 20s or your 30s yet, odds are Scott Pilgrim has something for you. I mean, it had something for me as a teenager, and I'm sure it'll have something for me later in life. But like, if you're a 20-something, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, you've got to see it. That's just all there is. I am in lesbians with this film, and I have been since 2010. So, let's not even segue. Let's get right into number 4, which is my personal favorite Tarantino film of all time. It is not Django Unchained, which a lot of people, I guess, seem to like more. And I get it, I like Django, but when I think Tarantino westerns, or when I think Tarantino, or when I think westerns, I think The Hateful Eight. And man, I was pretty damn hyped for this film too. I wasn't allowed to see Django in theaters. I had to watch it on Netflix a couple years later. Then shortly after I watched it, I heard about The Hateful Eight. I was so fucking hyped. I had a raging hard-on for The Hateful Eight when it was coming out, and I missed it in theaters because it didn't really have that great of a release in my area. So I watched it on DVD, and let me tell you, that is some of the best, 3 hours and 15 minutes or something like that you can spend watching a film. This, it's sort of like Bad Times at the El Royale, where you have a bunch of people, not really a clear protagonist, certainly no good guy, so to speak. You just have a bunch of people, they're all assholes, they're all in this one place, they all have different missions and agendas going on, and it's just about who you find yourself empathizing with more, and that's my jam, you know? Like, fuck whatever grand adventure you want to throw at me. I'll watch it, sure. But if you really want to see me connect with a film, give me a bunch of characters in a small space, have them interact with each other with no clear protagonist in the story, and no clear moral compass. So that, like, it's just this weird tangle of different moral codes and or lack thereof. And, love it. I love it. I'm gonna watch it in whatever form you can present that to me in, whether it's Bad Times at the El Royale, whether it's The Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs, or The Breakfast Club, which currently is my favorite film of all time. So that kind of story structure, down. And of course, this is Tarantino, so you know the music's going to be great, and the visuals, they are something else. Like, you wouldn't think it'd be much of a visual experience, where they're all in this one confined area. But this is not the type of film where you can play on your cell phone and listen to it, which I don't understand anyways, but it's certainly not the type of film where you can do that. You have to look at it, and just the more you look at it, the more you're gonna love your decision-making skills for tuning into this, because it is the best film Tarantino has ever put out. Albeit, I haven't seen Death Proof yet. I think that's the only one. But with the caveat of not having seen Death Proof, The Hateful Eight is the best film in Mr. Tarantino's filmography. So, what do we got next? Our top three. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I'm making sure there's no discrepancy between what I wrote and what I'm saying, because it is 3:06 a.m. and I work today. So, alright, story time. So, fall of 2012, I was a freshman in high school, and about a year, was it a year? I think it was about a year prior, a friend of mine had told me that there was a new Bond film coming out, and I was pretty excited. I had just sort of gotten into Bond in 7th grade. I had experience with some of the games prior, but 2011, I really kind of got into Bond, and a friend of mine was like, hey, there's this new film, it's called Skyfall, it's going to be coming out, we should see it. And I'm like, you know what? It's a new Bond. It'll be the first new Bond since I became a fan. I'm pretty hyped. Let's camp out. Let's watch it opening night, and we'll make like this big to do about it. And so we did. Freshman year of high school, all day that day, I was just waiting for Bond. Like, in my computer class, don't give a fuck what's happening. Just bring me to Bond. Any classroom where I could see the clock, I was not accomplishing anything that day. And you know why? Because James fucking Bond was happening. What happened to my background? I don't know how long that hasn't been there. And that's gonna bug me when I rewatch this. Also, like, I know it's kind of pretentious to have a frame from one of my own YouTube videos as the background, but I'm also the type of person that likes my own Facebook statuses. And it's pretty. Anyway, Bond. I was fucking excited. Me, my best friend, and another one of my really, really close friends I don't like saying my best friend and also another friend. I value all my friends. But the friend who I've known for the longest in my life, and a friend who I had met right around the time I was getting into Bonds. That was actually how we kind of came together in friendship. We're hype as fuck to see some Bond. So we took about a 45-minute ride to the theater that was showing it. And I was going into this expecting something very camp-like and absurd and ridiculous and just kind of casual, over-the-top spy fun. I had not seen any, really, of the promotional material except for when I was in the snack line. They were playing the trailer. Still not happy about that. But I tried to ignore it the best I could. But anyway, I went into it expecting something along the lines of like, I don't know, like GoldenEye or Die Another Day or something. And what I saw was the best Bond film I have ever seen. Yes, I've seen Casino Royale. That's my second favorite. But Skyfall, man. It's absolutely beautiful. It is possibly my favorite looking film. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best looking film for me. Possibly. The next two also I can say that for. But what really... Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, hold on. The 2010s, this incredible decade for cinema. You know, we've got The Martian, Moonlight, Interstellar, the MCU, Inception. All these very, very impactful films. And you're talking to me about James Bond right now. Well, you don't understand what vibe I'm on, you see, because this film is the reason that this channel even exists, pretty much. Initially, like throughout middle school, my career plan, which was really more of just like the pipe dream, was to become a programmer for Nintendo. And I thought video games was going to be my life. That was going to be my craft. That was going to be my field. Then I started taking computer classes and realized that was not the case. Ugh. Yeah, I really kind of ditched that path hard. But then, you know, freshman year of high school, I'm about 2 months into high school at this point. And, you know, I had seen films that I liked. I had seen films that I loved. My favorite films of all time, you know, I had seen a lot of them before I saw Skyfall. But Skyfall was the film that I saw that made me feel like I needed to be involved. You know what I mean? Like, this film inspired me to take a video production class in 10th grade, and then again in 12th grade as a senior. So, it may not be my favorite film of all time. It's my third favorite film of this decade. But this film here from 2012 is what got me into film as an art form. So, Skyfall holds a very special place in my heart. And I just love Skyfall. It's incredible. So, only two films this decade topped the film that brought me into the film world. Um, so my second favorite film of the 2010s is The Revenant. I know people recognize this film as the film where DiCaprio won his Oscar. And it was sort of this meme, and it was this thing where people were like, when is DiCaprio going to win his Oscar? It happened, and it seemed like a lot of people were like, yeah, finally DiCaprio got his Oscar. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Hey, what do you think about like that shot where he's walking through the woods, and they're like, wait, whoa, I haven't seen the film, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, I know two people who I can talk about The Revenant with, and they both work at a video rental store. I've never just come across someone in non-film student life where I could talk about The Revenant with them, and that should be illegal because this film is a masterpiece. Some folks say it's too long, slow, boring, and pretentious. That doesn't really bother me. I have a very pretentious side about me when it comes to art and film and whatnot. Where, just bring on the art house vibe and I will be down. Don't get me wrong, this isn't just really pretty shots of nature and whatnot. Like, this film has really good action scenes, really good fight scenes. Like, if you were to put together a supercut of all the action in this film, it'd be really intense and thrilling and whatnot. But the rest of the film is just like this somber, sort of primal trip through nature. And it's just beautiful. I fucking love The Revenant. It's mild, I guess, yeah, we'll call it a spoiler. Spoiler alert for The Revenant. This is the best revenge story I've ever seen put to film. I struggle to find anything wrong with this film at all. You know what? My biggest flaw with The Revenant is that there's too much kind of bluish tones on the poster and Blu-ray packaging thing. That's my biggest flaw with The Revenant. Okay? I don't know how you could make this film better, because it's pretty damn near perfect. Speaking of which, let's talk about my favorite film of the 2010s. You know it, you love it, you've seen it a shit tillion times. It's that film where people go, you know what? That is the quintessential artistic expression of the decade. So, my favorite film of the 2010s is A Ghost Story. Man, A24, like, don't get me wrong, every film is valid in my eyes, so I don't mean to declare something that I like superior to something that I might not like as much. But with that being said, like, fuck the MCU, fuck Star Wars. I can't believe those words came out of my mouth. But like, fuck any franchise or studio in the 2010s. A24 made the 2010s its bitch. Alright? Between, Ex Machina, Green Room, Lady Bird, The Disaster Artist. I still haven't seen Hot Summer Nights, but I'd like to. Just so many good films came out of A24 this decade. I'm pretty sure they started in like 2013 with Spring Breakers. But hot damn if this studio isn't going places. So, A Ghost Story. This film, I feel like it almost feels like somehow someone scanned my brain and they're like, you know what? Let's make a film just perfectly designed for this one dude. And he will love it. It will be like one of the best things he's ever seen. And we'll just release it, for everybody. But it's like meant for this one person. I'm pretty sure that's what happened when A Ghost Story was made. It came out in 2017. I do not know a single other human being who has seen this film. I tried to get someone to watch it with me, and I think they made it about 10 minutes. Yeah, they made it about 10 minutes. I don't know. People call it slow, boring, pretentious, whatever. Doesn't really bother me. I don't really want to give anything away, but I feel like I have to kind of put a little bit of information out there because it feels like no one's really seen this film. So, A Ghost Story, spoilers, is the story of this man who dies in a car accident, and he watches his wife go through the mourning process, and then he sort of looks inward at himself, and it's basically an existentialist masterpiece. This is existentialism porn, basically. Like, there's a great monologue in it which pretty much sums up the entirety of the film. Yeah, it's a story about a ghost thinking about shit. Like, that's pretty much what you've got to go on. It's a story of a guy who dies, and then he's a ghost. He says nothing. There's a lot of pretty pictures. You have to look at pictures and feel emotions, and that's a ghost story. And it's a masterpiece. It is damn near perfect. Like, I like this film more than I ever would have thought. I had a strong interest in seeing the film when I saw Chris Stuckman's review of it. And I picked up the DVD without, having seen the film. I just knew, I feel like I should own this. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful both in terms of cinematography and just the way it makes you feel. Like, it'll make you feel sad, but it'll make you feel really sweet and fluffy on the inside, too. watching this ghost go through his journeys, like, whenever I try to get someone into this, like, if they look it up, they'll see the dude in the ghost costume, and they sort of immediately discredit the film because of the way the ghost looks. Don't do it. You need to see this film. If you are a human, if you are a living creature, you need to see A Ghost Story. I don't know how else to put it. It's sad, it's happy, it's uplifting, like, I don't know, every emotion that it presents to you is very well balanced. Like it makes you sad, but not sad enough to cry, and it makes you happy, but not too happy, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna laugh at anything, you're not gonna cry, you might cry. I feel like as I get older, this film will make me cry. But, like, for every bitter moment, there's a sweet moment, and, like, you know, the bitter moments and the sweet moments just sort of tangle into this yin-yang thing of emotion and feelings, and this is what film is about. It's like, if I had to show aliens a film and be like, hey, this is what the medium of film is, this is like a thing that human beings do to explore ourselves and the world around us. This is this thing that we do. It's this art. Here's an example. I'm gonna show them A Ghost Story because this is just the most pure human experience that you can watch in a film. It's about, it's like 3:26 a.m. and I'm rambling about A Ghost Story. I could do that. This could be another hour and a half long because, you know, it's a ghost story. Like, if I'm ever if I'm just walking down the street and someone ever asks me if I've seen this kind of obscure movie called A Ghost Story, I'm just going to blow a load right then and there because I love this film so much and I just need other people to see it. And I just need other people to talk to me about it. So there you have it. My favorite films of the 2010s. If you've managed to sit through, what are we creeping up on, 54 minutes of me talking about my favorite films of the 2010s, first of all, thank you. Appreciate it. Second of all, you know, comment below, tell me what your favorites are. Yeah, subscribing is a thing. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe to my channel. You'll know if you want to subscribe to my channel, because you'll be like, I should subscribe to this channel. And I'll be like, thank you. But I'm not going to ask you to. You know how the subscribe button works. You've been on YouTube before. You know how this shit works. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe. So, auf Wiedersehen.